SportsGrid college football today, Championship Saturday. It feels good to say that, Joe. No more week 1, 2, 3, 4 meaningless games per se. We are at Championship Saturday, and that's how we're going to start the show. Donnie, Rightside, Joe, Lisi, and away we go. We got you for 2 hours with a monster day, and by tomorrow, Joe, we don't have to argue anymore. It's going to be set in stone.
Yeah, the pretenders from the contenders. Are the Miami Hurricanes going to be in the top 12? What about your star?
In.
Both are in. Notre Dame and Miami. Or they both out
rode
after
Notre
today?
Dame and Miami this year. Joe rode LSU. You going to ride off a cliff? You're going to ride up to the top and have a cheeseburger with your boy?
Well,
huh?
so let me ask you this, because you're assuming both are in.
Yeah.
So let's start off right away. If you had to pick one, because you've been pumping the Notre Dame hype train over the last 10 weeks. Now it comes down to both of these teams. Who are you picking?
It's got to be Miami. It's got to be Miami.
So then why haven't you been banging that drum?
Head to head. Like you're a lot older than I am. So you know what I mean? Like if we played high school football and we won, you know what I mean? People look at you and be like, hey, that could be Donnie's uncle right there. And I agree with it. But you know what I mean?
Chance. I could be your
play
son.
It on the field, Joe. And we're going to get to the college football playoff in just a moment and who we think is going to be in or out. But I just want to say this, Joe, and ask you this question. Old school, the only tiebreaker that matters is when you play each other. How many losses do you have? How many losses do I have? Even. Did you play each other? Who won? Isn't it that simple?
Yeah, and they have common opponents, Donnie. They did play Stanford. They did play Pittsburgh. They did play Syracuse, other schools. And again, when you just look at the body of work for Notre Dame and Miami, it should be Miami. And I know that Notre Dame's on a 10-game win streak. I know that they're one of the hottest teams in the country. And they are deserving based off of how they're playing now, but that doesn't necessarily mean you should be in the top 12. You know, you want to be in the top 12, take care of business and beat Miami and beat Texas A&M at the start of the year, and you wouldn't be in this situation. Again, controversy is what drives college football. It's been here for ages. 97, Michigan and Nebraska. 90, we had the split national championships with Colorado and Georgia Tech. This is going to be another controversy if Miami gets snubbed, because I'll just say this. You and I have sat up on this desk for all college football season. Where is the marquee win for Notre Dame? Their combined 10 wins have come against opponents with a combined overall record of 54 and 65. That's a 453 winning percentage. To me, that's not good enough to get in, especially when you lost to Miami week number 1.
I'll tell you the funny thing again, Joe. After that 0-2 start to Notre Dame, I sat on this desk and I told you week by week they're going to make the football playoff, because here's what the argument that's coming into town now is. The hottest team in the nation is Notre Dame, 10 straight wins. And that was the joke, but they really didn't beat a lot of good football teams. But you understand how college football works. You get your losses away in the beginning of the season, then you start to mount that comeback, and everybody believes you're really good. Now, also, we can say this as well, Joe. Both Miami and Notre Dame should be in the college football playoff. They are in the top 12 of teams that should be in this. But, Joe, we mess around and we take a look at a group of 5 teams that don't deserve to be in. But somehow, first of all, Joe, let me start with this. How did we come to an agreement in college football where we had to include a group of 5 team? Where did that even come in?
Well, that's what but wait, let me play devil's advocate,
I like devils.
And we're talking, you know, how much we love the college basketball tournament, right? We let in 65 and 68, and then we have the play-in games, and then we're accepting if an under 500 team like Georgia years ago won the SEC championship, and we love Cinderella. We love it on the basketball side, but we hate it on the college football side. Expansion was built to allow the group of 5 teams to compete, because you remember, Donnie, not too long ago, with Jared Zabransky and Boise State and Ian Johnson knocking off Adrian Peterson in Oklahoma. It was on any given Saturday, Cinderella could step up. Well, they gave them an opportunity, but now they're dialing it back. We'll give you 1 spot. We'll give you maybe 2. But if it's Notre Dame, Miami, or a brand team or organization or program, we're going to dial it back, and we want them in because there's TV viewership and sponsorship dollars at hand. You can't have it both ways.
Look, we don't mind the Cinderella getting into the tournament, Joe, basically because we don't kick out the teams that we think that we can win it all. Now, as I say that, I don't think Notre Dame's going to win a championship if they do make it in the college football playoff, and I don't don't actually think that the Miami Hurricanes are going to make it into the college football playoff if they do and win a championship. But the one thing that we don't like is, hey, and no disrespect to the teams that are going to make it out of G5, but I am going to bring a little disrespect. They don't deserve there at this point. Now, if you said, Joe, we had a 32-team playoff like Division III has, and you let in 2 wild cards, like, well, okay, they're going to get beat first round. It's good to watch. Same thing as the field of 64 when you take a look at March Madness, where nobody gets upset that a 16 seed gets wasted by 40 points, because that's just the way the tournament goes, and that's the number 1 seed saying, okay, it's going to be basically a bye for our first round game, and the team that just makes it in, Joe, is the 16 seed. They're just happy to be there, and you can have that. But when I see teams out there that have a legitimate chance to win a round 1 of the playoff get taken up by a group of 5, that's where I get upset. But let's take a look at this yesterday, Joe, what actually happened on the field and how it actually pertains to who's going to make it into the college football playoff. 2 top 25 teams played yesterday, Joe. That was North Texas and Tulane. How about Tulane? 34-21 victory over North Texas yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Summerall and the crew did a fantastic job. They lost this game last year to Army on the road. They got absolutely blown out as a 5.5-point road favorite. Different this time. On their home field, they were 2.5-point dogs. They never looked back. They had a 24-7 first-half lead. Yeah. They won this game in the trenches, and we've seen this with North Texas, a very finesse type of offense, wide open of attack. They like to throw it early and often, but when teams are physical, especially in the trenches, that's where North Texas struggles, and that's what Tulane did. Now, Tulane's a very good team. If you watch over the past couple of years against teams like Kansas State, Oklahoma, they have stepped up, and not just with Summerall, back in the day with Willie Fritz. So if they had an opportunity to make the playoffs, and this gives them a perfect shot, they're deserving, Donnie.
How about Troy James Madison? You see the final score yesterday, Joe. It's 31-14, an easy victory, but that line was over 3 touchdowns here, which does make a difference at this point. Tell me about the win yesterday by JMU and the chances, Joe. Can we get Tulane and JMU into the college football playoff?
Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. If you're telling me that Duke potentially wins the ACC championship and they're a 5-loss champion, okay, that's where James Madison potentially gets the bid, right? James Madison 12-1 this year. They win the Sun Belt. Again, 23.5-point favorites. They stepped up, didn't get the cover, but they got the win. They struggled a couple weeks ago against Washington State. Very close game, but they found a way to pull it out 24-20. It really comes down to if Duke knocks off Virginia. If Duke knocks off Virginia, there's the shot. Now, if you ask Manny Diaz and the Duke Blue Devils, he says the ACC champion.
Tough schedule.
Difficult schedule, but, the ACC is obviously hoping for Virginia and pulling. They dominated that matchup earlier in the year, won it by 17 as a 4.5-point dog. We'll see if they could do it now tonight as a 3.5-point favorite.
Also, Joe, later yesterday, you had Boise State 38-21. Not really going to have an impact, obviously, here on the college football playoff. But the reason I wanted to bring up these games from yesterday and how it pertains to, sometimes I look at like the greater good of the sport for me, because I'm always about expansion. It's not necessarily that Miami's going to get left out or Notre Dame. I just want more meaningful college football games that we can watch. And FCS and Division II and Division III all have massive college football playoffs that work out extremely well. Joe, if we get a case where the ACC is left out, and I'm talking, Joe, Miami doesn't go, Duke doesn't go, or again, Virginia's probably going to win and they would be in at this point, but let's just say Duke, and they don't get a team in. We have to be headed for what? 16, 24 teams sooner than later?
Well, listen, you brought up the college basketball format, right? Yeah. Well, then we should go to the college basketball format for college football as it relates to quality wins, right? The quad 1 win, quad 2 win, right? Top 10 win, top 5 win, and let's see where the chips fall in that type of situation or scenario. It would be devastating for the ACC if Duke wins this game and they're left out of the top 12 when you have a team like Miami lurking and moving there. The problem that I have with the committee, Donnie, is they have Notre Dame ahead of Miami.
Yeah.
But they also came out and said those teams could jumble in the standings without playing a game. How is that possible?
So you're telling me
you got it wrong in week 14, but you're going to get it right in week 5? It just proves that this is a complete joke. The whole process is a joke. The committee Yeah, some of them watch football. I don't care if they were in the game for 30 years. They're not watching it on a consistent basis, and it needs to be dissolved.
I got to tell you, Joe, I don't know if people out there watching been arrested before. Hey, don't talk until you get a lawyer. Why do we have a college football playoff show? It's like, don't talk. You're going to incriminate yourself, back themselves right into a corner now, and we're going to watch it play out tomorrow. We got some other hot topics to talk about. Coaches replacing other coaches, and how about these big games today? We'll be right back.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
You're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I said.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today, Championship Saturday. Both myself, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi, very excited for this. A long season here that's only going to get longer, Joe. Still about a month and a half to go until we determine a national champion. But in between that, Joe, we got teams switching up players, which obviously have National Signing Day. You're going to have the transfer portal open up, but more importantly, the transfer portal for the coaches now. What a carousel, man.
Unbelievable. We heard the news come out of Happy Valley yesterday with Matt Campbell. That was a huge deal, 8 years potentially being worked out, and I think a pretty really solid hire. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. Matt Campbell has stepped up at Iowa State, made them a prominent program in the Big 12, and again, Penn State botched it for basically what?
They really did.
2 months? 2 months?
You know what's funny, Joe? If they went earlier in that, interviewing and got Campbell, people are like, yeah, you know what, that's great. The fact that they actually wound up with Campbell after striking out on, everybody that would talk to him, I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they went for Sataki. Now, supposedly the rumor, I don't know if you heard this.
What do you got? Cookies?
No. So James Franklin came to Vatech last weekend with Krispy Kremes. So the CEO, supposedly, of Krispy Kreme was close to Sataki and basically talked
crumble cookies.
Crumble cookies. All right.
Come on. You could tell this guy doesn't eat sweets.
I don't eat sweets, but and that was why Sataki didn't take the job. So it just, and I heard Saban talk about this, which is absolutely ridiculous. They need tempered expectations at Penn State. Get real, Nick. I think Nick lost his fastball because we're not talking about Boston College, Michigan State, Maryland. South Carolina, Maryland, Iowa. You're talking about a prominent program that in the mid-'90s thought about national championships all the time. The fact that Penn State can't get back to relevancy and dominance at the Big Ten level and can't beat teams like Michigan and Ohio State at least once a year is absolutely ridiculous to me. And the fact that the fan base would accept that is ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about millions and billions of dollars now in the sport. It's growing exponentially every year. And if a team like Indiana could go to the college football playoff your own conference, anybody can go, and it should be Penn State. He's ridiculous, Nick Saban.
You know what's also funny about that comment by Nick Saban, too? Because the guy's won multiple championships. But also now, in this day and age, Joe, where it's about making the tournament in college football, which you have 12 teams get in. Those are championship aspirations. Like, you make it into – I doubt any power team makes it in, like Oklahoma. You think they're going into this tournament and playoffs and saying to themselves, man, just fun to be here. Like, no, they actually think they can win this thing, and so does their fan base.
Yeah.
Like, why would Penn State say, hey, calm down for a couple years, when James Franklin got fired because the expectations are championship?
Yeah, exactly. And he makes the college football playoff last year, and his quarterback doesn't complete a pass to a wide receiver, and they lose to Notre Dame, who makes it to the national championship
Never
game.
lost that.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But this is where we are in college football. We'll see. I think Matt Campbell's a home run hire because, again, he got Rocco Beck there from Iowa State. He can elevate the quarterback position to the level. Think about his last two quarterbacks, Brock Purdy, a star in the NFL, and Rocco Beck, something that Penn State, Donnie, I went through the 25 quarterbacks dating back to Kerry Collins. The garbage, I'm sorry. Penn State has never had an elite number one draft pick since Kerry Collins, and that's why they have failed to win consistently Big Ten championships and make it to the college football playoff.
Take a look at some of these other coaches here quickly, Joe. You take a look at Eric Morris, North Texas, some of the lower levels. I tell you an under-the-radar one for me, which shouldn't be. Pat Fitzgerald to Michigan State. Perfect fit, Joe.
Yeah. It is. Blue collar, and they thought they were getting that with Jonathan.
Look at that picture. Look at that. What Lisi's had on that thing.
Is he on a merry-go-round?
He is. He's on like the
carousel. Look at that. All right. Look at those graphics. Gotta love it.
Costs a lot.
He's a blue-collar guy. He was out of the game. He won his lawsuit in terms of Northwestern, being terminated illegally and not by the contract. And again, he's a guy that can elevate Michigan State to relevancy. He's won big games. Now, obviously, Michigan State had bigger aspirations than Northwestern, but now there's more revenue, and he has an opportunity to erase the Mel Tucker and Jonathan Smith era quickly. I expect this team to be disciplined, run the football, and obviously win games that they shouldn't, especially in year one. We'll see if we can get them back to 9 or 10 wins.
D'Antonio style, they can get back there, Joe. I'm going to ask you one more question before we move on. Brian Hartline. Not because he's going to South Florida. I don't know how good a coach he is, but a great recruiter. And you put him in the state of Florida now, we can recruit. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. But talk to me about Ohio State. They just had one of the best wide receivers in the country still stay with them, even though Hartline left. That's a big loss. That guy was an absolute machine in recruiting.
It really was. He's got the play-calling duties and elevated this team, and Julian saying, and you talk about bringing in the talent to Ohio State. It was all Hartline, right? Now you lose that. And obviously now more pressure on Ryan Day to maintain that momentum. It was always thought that if Ryan Day ever left or they ever terminated Ryan Day, it would be Brian Hartline, the former standout wide receiver. But again, we'll see what he could do at South Florida. Golish set a standard. We saw Jeff Scott go from Clemson to USF. Couldn't live up to the hype. We'll see if Hartline, who has no previous head coaching experience, elevates this program. But I can tell you this, he'll recruit some talent in South Florida away from the likes of John Summerall in Florida, and more importantly, obviously, Florida State and Mike Norvell.
Hartline leaving to go to South Florida, but not before that, Joe. The Ohio State squad, they're showing up today in the Big Ten championship game, taking on Indiana, maybe the crown jewel of the day, along with the SEC. This line opened up, Joe, at some outlets 5.5. We now see 4.5 and 4s in the marketplace. Still as a favorite towards Ohio State. The total, Joe, 48.5. They're gone. They're down to 46.5. But understand this. Win or lose, both of these teams will get into the college football playoff. But I heard Kirby Smart talking about the SEC saying, we're going to take it easy because we already know we're in. Like, no. Like, Signetti and Indiana, they never get here. You know how much it would mean for them to knock off Ohio State and be the Big Ten champions? This is going to be a great game in a dome, Joe. Let's get it kicked off. What do you think?
Donnie, so when you talk about, Signetti wants this game, Indiana hasn't beaten Ohio State since 1988. They had one tie over the last, 32 years? That was back in 1990. Ohio State since 89. I think it's like October 29th, 1989. 31-0-1 against Indiana. The last 4 victories have come by an average margin of victory of 33.4 points per game. They picked up this win last year, 38-15. Ohio State's dominant this year in the Big Ten. They won their games by an average margin of victory of 27 points per game. But I'll just say this, Indiana's margin of victory in the Big Ten, 29.7 points per game. I think the difference is Fernando Mendoza and those wide receivers led by Cooper. I'm calling for the upset. How about that? We'll break it down. I like Indiana plus the points, but I like them outright over Ohio State today.
Outright upset at this point here. We're going to keep it on this game because we got a lot of things to get to. Heisman Trophy talk and much, much more. Welcome to Saturday, college football style.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Now you're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I zig.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
8 p.m. Indianapolis tonight. The show goes down. 2 zeros, Joe. Somebody's going to have a 1 at the end of this game, but both will be moving on. But understand this as well. Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza. Props in this game, 229.5 for Sayin, 206 for Fernando Mendoza. If we look at their touchdown props here to throw, over 1.5, minus 148 for Sayin. For Mendoza, over 1.5 at a plus 130 price, Joe. I'm going to ask you about those in a moment. But this feels like it could be an unbelievable eliminator for who's going to win the Heisman Trophy. And if you look at the odds to win it, Mendoza plus 155, Sayin plus 200. Squeezed in there, Diego Pavia. Tell me about this game, Joe, and what it means to these quarterbacks and the expectations for you on how they can deliver in this game.
Yeah, so you see the total 46.5, right? So we're expecting, the book's expecting a lower type of game. So, again, if Mendoza throws for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and they win, is that good enough to get him the Heisman? I don't know. He's got 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year, completing well over 70% of his passes. On the flip side, you have Sayin 30-5. Again, not as much of a household name as Mendoza, but again, he lights up Indiana, and all of a sudden he throws for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's going to explode onto the scene. So, it's an interesting matchup. I'll just say this. When you look at this game, it's going to be, can Mendoza attack that secondary over the top? Because when you look at what Ohio State has done, they're only giving up 128 passing yards per game, Donnie. They are very good in the back end, holding opposing quarterbacks to a completion percentage under 60%. Yeah. They've only allowed 5 passing touchdowns all year.
Amazing.
So, again, I think those wide receivers are going to have to be active. I don't think they take the approach of run the football first. I think they have to take the approach, play action on first and second down, open up the defense a little bit. Then you could run a little bit later in this matchup. We know that Ohio State has a great front seven, holding opposing offenses to 75 rushing yards per game, 2.5 yards per rush. Going to be very difficult. But I will say, when you look at the body of work for Ohio State, this is the most explosive offense they have played. 56% conversion rate on third downs for Indiana. They're averaging basically 480 total yards per game, 229 on the ground, 254 through the air. And when they run it, they are effective. The problem is going to be they're going to stock the box. And Ohio State's going to say, we're going to play big boy football. You have a Heisman Trophy winner or a potential guy, try and beat us over the top against our secondary. Easier said than done, but I still think Indiana could do it. I think Cignetti learned from last year. He has better weapons and a better quarterback than last year with Rourke. I think they win this ball game.
Yeah, Rourke was out there at the end of the year like on a torn ACL, still trying to play some football here. Let's play scenario style in this game, Joe. I'm going to give you the final score at 23-20. Doesn't matter who wins the game because I'm going to explain it this way. I feel Fernando Mendoza right now as the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. 23-20 score. It doesn't even, and again, unless he threw 3 interceptions. They win, talking about Indiana, Joe. He's the Heisman. Reverse it. 23-20 Ohio State. I don't think Sayan's the Heisman.
It's Pavia.
It'll go to Pavia. There you go.
I agree because he's right now plus 170, right?
Yes.
Entering the weekend, he was entering plus 170. He's not going to play, but again, he has the hype. You think about Diego Pavia, right? You know, the hype for Vanderbilt in Nashville. He's got the stars hanging out with him. He's a household name. You know Diego Pavia. So, again, it's going to come down to if this game blows into the 50s and both of these quarterbacks light it up, then, yes, they could steal the show because they're going to have basically maybe close to 40 touchdown passes in college football, which is phenomenal with an undefeated record. We'll see exactly how this plays out. I will just say this. If Indiana, Donnie, can run the football, again, I don't think that's the approach tonight. I think they take the play action pass first and throw it to run it later. But if they can run the football, they have 6 games this year where they rush for over 300. Undefeated, the margin of victory, and one of them's included with an FCS opponent. 47.3 points per game. That is, that's almost 50 players. That's unheard of. You're covering numbers, whether you be a dog or a favorite in that type of situation. And I talk about the front seven for Ohio State. You know, they are one of the best in the nation. 81 yards per game allowed, 2.7 yards per rush. This is going to be the matchup. I hope that Cignetti is more aggressive with the passing attack because if they just play it straight up, that's a game that Ohio State wins.
Answer me this too, Joe, because all year long we've been impressed with Ohio State, particularly defense. But sometimes you look at their roster of games and say it's a little bit underwhelming. Loved what they did against Michigan last week, but that's a Michigan offense that tends to struggle. Indiana doesn't struggle. Ohio State is built for it. You give me 22 degrees and windy conditions, we'll shut you out.
Right.
This isn't a dome against an offense that they haven't seen all year. Is this going to change your mindset? Because, again, both of these teams, Joe, win or lose, they're going to the college football playoff. If Indiana wins this, are they your favorite to win the national championship at that point?
Yeah, because again, you pick apart. It's how they win.
Yes.
They pick apart this defense tonight through the air, which, again, I'm not suggesting that. I think that they win the game, but it's on Mendoza. He's got to live up to the hype. If he picks apart through the air, something that Arch Manning couldn't do, they win.
Let's get to the 12 o'clock game coming up next. We are just getting started, people.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Now you're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I zig.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today. only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz only on SportsGrid.
Monster football games. That's what we do here on the SportsGrid Network, and every single game today. Ramifications on who's making it into the college football playoff, and also where are you going to be structured in the college football playoff, and what seed are you going to take? The SEC, which is usually the game of the day. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, live from Atlanta, Joe. Georgia and Alabama. A 1.5-point spread all week long. A 48.5 total. The battle for who is going to win the SEC is going to tell us a lot, Joe, because number one, Georgia wins, they're in. Georgia loses, they're still in. Alabama, question marks. They win, they're in. They lose, here we go.
Oh, that's going to be the
Here
debate.
we go.
If they put in Alabama over Notre Dame and Miami, there's going to be pandemonium. Now, it's a rematch of the earlier matchup in September. In that matchup, Georgia did get their 33-game home winning streak snapped. They lost that matchup 24-21. It was one of the better performances out of Ty Simpson. He put up 274 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. They pushed tempo early, and then in the second half they struggled a little bit. But Georgia was able to run the football against Alabama. We talk about Alabama being built. They're giving up 128 rushing yards on the ground. They gave up 150-plus last week to Auburn. Georgia pounded the rock for over 6 yards per carry. Can they do it again in this matchup? Again, I think this game is higher scoring, and we've seen this situation. Kirby Smart in SEC championships, he's only 3-4, hasn't beaten, obviously, Alabama in an SEC championship type of setting. Bama owns this when both of these teams play. Georgia all-time is 5-7 in SEC championships. 0-4 against Alabama in the SEC championship. They lost those games by an average margin of defeat, Donnie, of 4.3 points per game. Georgia has the opportunity to win back-to-back SEC championships dating back to 1980 through 1982 with Buck Bellew and that crew, right? So think about that. This could be the first time in 40 years. I like Georgia. I like the way their defense is playing. I like Gunnar Stockton. I think they can run it. They could throw it. A cause of concern for me, Alabama does not have a consistent rushing attack. 121 per game, 3.7 yards per carry. That's one of the worst performances out of an Alabama rushing attack dating back to almost pre-Nick Saban. That's how bad this offensive line is in terms of running the football. They got it going against Auburn last week, 158 on the ground. Can it continue? I am not so sure. I like Georgia minus the 2.5, but my best bet, I think this game flies into the 50s because it's got to be Ty Simpson. If you're Bama, we go over. I like Georgia, but I expect both quarterbacks Stockton and Ty Simpson to break out.
We just talked about the Big Ten championship game, right? Loser is still going to the college football playoff, but at the same time, they're bragging rights on the line. Like, you want to win your conference. That means so much. They actually asked this week, Joe, earlier in the week, Kirby Smart, hey, is this a game that means a lot because you know you're in? He's like, dude, it's the SEC championship game. Are you kidding me? We're going to have 85,000 people packed into this place, split right down the line, and bragging rights for who wins the SEC is absolutely massive. So let me ask you this question, Joe. If we look at the quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton, to me. If either one of them has an off day, you're probably going home, right? Hey, Ty Simpson threw 2 interceptions. They won't make it, or Stockton had a bad day. But when I look at this game and say, I need a player of the game, Joe, It's Gunnar Stockton for me. If he controls the ground game with his legs, has enough to throw over his 199.5 passing prop number, Georgia, to me, is going to win this game. But you look at the line, it's 1.5, Joe. It really is a coin flip.
It is, but again, it's Bama, right? And if you're Kalen DeBoer, you own Kirby Smart in 2 games now, right? So there's the body of work. And I talk about the dominance in SEC championship games, right? Georgia's 0-4 against Alabama in this type of situation. And they could beat teams like LSU and Texas like they did last year, but they struggle in the SEC championship against the likes of Alabama. But again, we come back. This is a much different offense now at the end of the year than what we see earlier in the year. I think Gunnar Stockton and that offense were a little bit more pass happy. They're starting to run the football more consistently. And it's not just the offense. The defense now is bounced back into championship form. They got exposed against Ole Miss, right? But once they won that game, that defense now has been playing lights out. And that's the difference, I think, when we look at Alabama and Georgia respectively. Yeah, they might have the edge, Ty Simpson over Gunnar Stockton quarterback-wise, but I give the edge to Georgia's defense over Alabama, and I think they can be exposed on the ground through the air. I think it's a big day for both quarterbacks. I think Stockton does have more weapons, believe it or not. You got Isaiah Branch, Dylan Bell. You do have Bowens and Nate Frazier at the running back position. The tight ends, I think, will be big for Georgia today. Lucky Lawson and Oscar Delp in red zones type of situations. Yeah. I just believe Georgia, in this type of situation, in a rematch, wins it. And Kirby Smart is right. You don't want to lose heading into the college football playoff. Why do you want to lose your last game and not be up? I want my team peaking into the playoffs, not being psychologically maybe pushed. Are we a good team or aren't we?
And also, you want the triple crown, as I like to say, Joe.
Yeah.
You saw last year with Ohio State. They won the national championship. You know questions they got to answer? You didn't beat Michigan.
Right.
Like, you don't want to win the SEC, then go into the championship round and say, we won the championship. Right. Alabama's like, well, we didn't win the championship, but we beat you in the SEC, and that's what matters. Which meaning, again, it really matters to win the national championship. But understand this point of contention that we're going to get. What's the line end up, Joe? Like, I'm hearing this. Doesn't matter what Alabama does, they're going to be in automatically. Or if they're within a touchdown, they'll get. You got to be kidding. Wait, they're within a touchdown of Georgia. No. A moral loss?
Here's the thing, and we did this, and again, you're not going to like this, but we did this when we snubbed Florida State with the quarterback, Jordan Travis. There was no. If we reversed that situation 2 years ago, and that situation was Alabama, Texas, or anybody of a blue blood, we'd be putting them in the playoff. Because it was Florida State and not known as a brand recognition or a prominent program, which was ridiculous because they did win 2 natties with Bobby Bowden. They should have been in. But because we did that, now we always give the edge to Alabama no matter what, right? The committee came out and said they were impressed with Alabama's rushing attack and building a first-half lead against a 5-7 Auburn team. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. And again, when you look at Alabama, they lost at home to Oklahoma. They didn't cover. They pushed against Missouri. Yeah. And these were teams that Oklahoma beat and smashed.
Yep.
I mean, they covered against Missouri as a 5.5-point favorite, 17-6. They went in Oklahoma into Alabama and Tuscaloosa and handed Alabama only their second home loss since 2020. And we have concerns about Oklahoma more than Alabama with potentially 3 losses. Is absolutely ridiculous.
Exactly. Lost to a bad FSU team here. Joe, Big 12 championship, that's going to kick off at noon today. BYU and Texas Tech. Monster favorite here for Texas Tech, Joe. 12.5 points as we see across the board. A 49.5 number. Nobody giving BYU much of a chance, but also the ramifications of BYU wins they're in. If BYU loses, they should be out, but who knows what the committee is going to think, Joe. But Texas Tech coming into this football game, loaded for bear and the favorite, and it seems like no matter what happens to Texas Tech today, they're going to be in.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a prominent, with the best front seven statistically in college football. They're only allowing, Donnie, 64 rushing yards per game, 2.3 yards per carry. They're 8-1 in the Big 12. Won those Big 12 games by an average margin of victory of 31 points per game. BYU is 8-1 in the Big 12. They've won their games in the conference by an average margin of victory of 12.8 points per game. Last time they played, it was 29-7. All Tech, a win and home cover, dead under in that matchup in Lubbock. Here's the matchup. Can BYU win the turnover battle? Because last time they played, they were -3. and can they run the football?
Yeah.
Last time against Texas Tech, 27 carries, 64 yards. That's not going to get it done. It has to be Bachmeier. It has to be Chase Roberts and Kingston, the wide receivers, to open up L.J. Martin. They're not going to go into this game and just try and run it against David Bailey in that front seven. Not going to happen. I like the speed attack. I think they're focused. But I will say this. It wouldn't shock me if this game goes off the rails, 48.5, 49. We could be in the 50s.
That number, again, 12.5 points is a big number. So it's easy to say, like, yeah, Texas Tech's going to win the game, Joe, but you got to cover close to 2 touchdowns at this point. Also, how much juice is left in the tank? Because we're still talking about the same things that we have with Alabama, Joe. Does Texas Tech 24-23 over BYU, does that get them in, Joe? If BYU loses, are they out?
Donnie, they would have 2 losses to the best team in the conference. And again, is the Big 12 looked at as the ACC better than the ACC? I think yes. I think they're in.
It could be amazing. It's going to be an amazing day here. Maybe not so amazing as the ACC, Joe, but we have to talk about this game next, and we will. We'll be right back.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Now you're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I think.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. It's just the way we get down. Championship Saturday. So much is on the table, which includes, Joe, I don't know where the SEC came up with their tiebreakers, but they clearly whiffed and could possibly be left out altogether of the college football playoff despite being a power conference here, Joe. Let's get the party started with this one because it's Duke, Virginia. It's not supposed to be. Miami should be in there some way, somehow, and take on Virginia, and then you can look at the nation and say we have a legitimate champion who's going to move into the college football playoff, but we don't. We could have absolute mayhem if Duke wins another football game as a 5-loss team and represents the ACC. I don't know, in the Cheetos Bowl because they didn't even make it in to the college football playoff. So let's start here, Joe. Lines 3.5 to 4, depending where you're shopping at, even some 4.5s in the marketplace. A total of 57.5. Before we get to that itself, Joe.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the ACC and how we got here. Like, why are we having Duke and Virginia and the ramifications of this game and having a 2-loss Miami team basically wrapped in the top 10 and can't play in their own championship game because somehow a 5-loss team jumps a 2-loss team?
Well, I mean, Duke only has 2 losses in the conference. They picked up the victory over Wake Forest, which knocked them out. That really threw in the fact that tiebreaker, and then the fact that Pitt lost to Miami. If Pitt wins that game last week, they're in the ACC championship game with Virginia, and then we'd have a different story. We'd be talking potentially about Pittsburgh knocking off, Virginia, a much better matchup. But again, this is what happens when you have tiebreakers. Duke did get blown out at home by Georgia Tech. They got blown out at home by Illinois. They have not been a very good home team, but they're 4-2 on the road. And again, might have the quarterback advantage, Mensa over Chandler Morris in this matchup. It didn't work out a couple of weeks ago where they basically were a 4.5-point home favorite, Donnie. And they got kicked in the chops by Virginia. You blinked and they were down 31-3 in that matchup. They lost it 34-17. Now they're catching 3.5, 4 points in this matchup, and all Virginia has to do is win, baby. Can they win and just save the ACC? I think they can, because the problem when you look at the matchup for me is that Virginia was able to rush the football for 6 yards per carry, 224 yards on the ground. Is that going to change in 2 weeks? I don't believe so. All of a sudden, is Duke going to all of a sudden shore up the front seven against this offensive line? No, I don't think so. And that's where I think this matchup comes and is won by the Virginia Cavaliers. I think they can run it. They're more disciplined. And I think their defense could force more turnovers. That's been the biggest, I think, drop-off for Duke right now is that defense led by Manny Diaz is allowing 29 points per game. He's supposed to be a defensive wizard. You can't get off the field on third downs. You can't give your quarterback or your offense, a short field in big matchups. And in games that they should win or be in, like Illinois and Georgia Tech, they lose the turnover battles. You're not going to win championships playing like that. So, again, I know that we love underdogs. It's just, to me, this is a bad matchup. We'll see how this game plays out, but I do like the over. 57.5, just because I think we get a lot of chunk plays. And if you're Manny Diaz and you know that defense is going to give up a lot of yards on the ground, your quarterback has to take chances, which means big plays over the top.
Yeah, we always like to talk about the winner of this game. If Virginia wins, they're automatically going to be on the college football playoff. Nobody's going to have an issue with that. If Duke wins, that's where the things start to pop up. It's kind of hard to say, a power school or a power conference team is going to be left out of it, but that's where we get into this equation where Duke's got 5 losses. And also, if Duke wins the game squarely, right, 14-13, do they deserve to be left out or be added into this? It's hard to keep a team from the ACC out of it when they won the ACC, but it seems illegitimate, Joe, because even back in the day, we didn't have these arguments. So why do we have so many arguments right now? Well, yes, we have a college football playoff, and there's more teams that get in, but, Joe, everybody played everybody in the past. Hey, Big Ten, round robin. ACC, round robin. Big 8, Big 12, round robin at that point. Why are we getting ourselves where these conferences are so big, Joe, where it's just a matter of your schedule? Like, we played an easy schedule, so we get in the conference and say, we had to play 3 top 10 teams. You played none of them here.
Right. Well, that's the problem now, is that we with conference realignment, the SEC says, well, we have to play non-conference games, and we're beating each other up. Well, guess what? That had to be part of the equation when you took on these schools, right? You weren't complaining when they were giving you $40 and $50 million a year, in that gravy train. You can't have it both ways. But now, again, I've always said expansion was supposed to help the little guy, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to help. If this was a college basketball situation and Duke, that has 5 losses, wins, this would be what? What was the team? St. Peter's or what was it? That made that run, that beat Kentucky that time. St. Peter's that went on that magical run. This is the same type of situation. We just don't like it because it's going to knock out a brand like Miami or Notre Dame. Or can we talk about the great state of Alabama in that way with 3 losses potentially? I mean, this is what you have. You have schools like Duke, like Virginia, vying for a conference championship, deserving potentially of that 12th slot because they won their conference championship. And we said conference championships are held in higher value than other schools that don't. Notre Dame, you're right. Notre Dame wouldn't be in this situation if they were part of the ACC.
Exactly. They'll be in the championship game trying to play their way, and nobody have any issues at this point. Now, we do take a look at the game itself, Joe. What is the attendance going to be like for this one? Because I guess maybe more Virginia, and it's Virginia and Duke are close, so it makes some sense. But this is not what the ACC envisioned of their championship game at all.
And think about last year's game. We went right down to the wire. The kid hit, a 53-yarder for Clemson? Clemson and SMU. As long as when the ACC envisioned this, Clemson, Miami, Florida State, right? At the Louisville will take somebody
Virginia
like
Tech
that.
Would sneak
they
in,
get Duke, and it's not that Duke is playing bad. bad, but they're 5-loss football team.
Yeah.
You know, they never envisioned that, but we'll see. I will say this again on the flip side. If Duke has any shot, and we talk about Mensa making plays, this game, again, was won in the trenches last time. They only rushed for 42 yards, Donnie, on 23 carries, 1.8 yards per rush. You're not going to win games in championship settings by running the football for less than 50 yards, and I know sacks are included, but they need a better effort today. That's why I give the edge to Virginia. I give the quarterback advantage and props-wise to Mensa because he's going to have to make a ton of plays in this ballgame.
Heavy touchdown prop in this game, Joe. Taylor for Virginia, minus 340 price. Scores today?
I've told you this time and time again.
Yeah.
I have done this outside of every school besides Notre Dame. If it's Lover Price, bet it.
Yeah.
If it's somebody else, it's like Russian roulette.
In the air.
It's like Russian roulette. I'm telling you.
It feels like
Crazy.
Russian roulette with this ACC title game, but that is Duke. It is Virginia. Certainly they're going to play tonight. By the way, Rick Ross going to perform at Fan Fest today.
That's good.
Probably thought Miami would be there, so he'd sign up for it. Now he's like, what am I even doing at this point? Let me head over to a local wing stop. But that's what you get. The ACC Championship game, Joe. Rat Pack edition coming up next. Championship.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just like ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Take a look at it and you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total or going into the year with the Patriots. It was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, you know, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, you know, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Rat Pack style edition, championship Saturday, right here on the SportsGrid Network. College football today. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. Joe, what do you get? Firing some late bets in at this point right now?
Trying to see the latest odds here.
What do we got? Give me an update.
I'm looking at the Big 12 championship. We saw 48.5 come in on the total, which is a little shocking. Big 12 championship, you think obviously points. And explosive offenses. These teams have done it with just more methodical type of offenses and lights out defense. So money coming in. We also saw some money coming in on the SEC championship. That total for much of the week was 47.5.
Yeah.
Back up to 48.5.
Everybody loves it. You know what's funny about that? If you are, and again, this is just a PSA for everybody who's handicapped and gambled in their life. If you like the over, you better take it early in the week.
Yeah.
If you like the under, wait to the last minute. Same thing with props. Hey, is anybody going to hey, I love Alabama, but I'm waiting for Simpson's number to go lower. Stop it. You know it's only going to go higher at that point.
It's not going to happen. As you inch closer to these conference championship games and you see some of these outcomes, like there's only one game at 12, right? Two. The Miami and Western Michigan. But when you see these games transpire and people are starting to lose, right? That's where they start fire off the 4 o'clock bets.
Higher.
You got the 2 bailouts tonight with the Big Ten and the ACC, so both at 8 o'clock Eastern.
By the way, what's the ratings between those two, Joe, at 8 o'clock?
I think the Big Ten championship game could be the most watched.
It's at a better time slot for that, so I do believe that. And also, it's 2 undefeated teams. It'll be fun. Again, 2 really good games today. We'll see what the BYU game turns out to be, but not a lot of excitement, even though it's a lower spread for the ACC title game, Joe. But let's get to the Rat Pack games here. Montana, I believe it's the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
Montana Grizz. The Grizz. Yeah. South Dakota State, 2.5-point favorite here for Montana. 52.5. I'm assuming we're outdoors in Montana. It's probably freezing today. Let me see if I can get a weather update. I don't know if I can. 37 degrees. That's warm out there, Joe.
That's warm?
That's warm out there. Kids are coming to that game in shorts and a T-shirt.
No,
come on, from Montana?
South Dakota State for me. No, never been to Montana. I'm taking South Dakota. I can't even talk. South Dakota State.
Now, what's their? Are they the Jackrabbits?
Yes.
Which one is it? Look at that. I'm hitting
Jackrabbits.
Hitting on all cylinders this morning. Right.
They were national champions a couple of years ago. One of the top.
A little North Dakota State, though, Joe. You like that?
Nah. North Dakota State has the great stadium.
Fargo.
No, Idaho has
Fargo
a good
Dome.
Vandals.
What is it? That's the Kibbe Dome.
Yeah, that one's phenomenal. That one looks like an arena league.
By the way, did you ever see that arena where they have the suspended goalposts where they hang from the ceiling there? They don't actually touch the ground?
That's the one in Idaho.
That's pretty tremendous.
It is.
Yeah, Kibbe Dome. Get after it, people. Let's get to the MAC championship today. Rat Pack edition style, Joe. Miami, Ohio. That's Chuck's boys. Western Michigan. 2.5-point favorite here. Disappointing 43.5. Whatever Miami of Ohio's in the house, man. You ain't scored no points on Chuck's D.
No, you're not. But both teams are very methodical. They want to run the football and they want to control the tempo. You know, I looked at this total. I'm like, these MAC championships have a tendency to go through the total, but I just don't see it right here. The problem with Miami right now is they changed quarterbacks, but they're playing well. The freshman quarterback has stepped up, but Dequan Finn, that transferred in there from Toledo, he transferred out, didn't play the last 4 games. They want to run the football, win the turnover battle. But Western Michigan has one of the most lethal rushing attacks in the MAC. They're averaging 189 yards on the ground. I just think the defense for me is a little bit better on Miami. The inexperience of the freshman quarterback is a little cause of concern, but I'm taking the 1.5. I'm leaning to the under because, again, I think Chuck Martin and the Red Hawks are a little bit more conservative in this matchup, leans to the under in this ballgame.
Just think, Joe, more expansion of college football playoff. The winner of that game goes to the college football playoff.
Stop.
That's perfect. Come on, you let it in. We let everybody in.
The MAC should have a seat at the table. Why not?
They should. You kick it like JMU. Kick JMU out. We need a MAC seat at the table because let me tell you something. Those NIU teams back in the day with Jordan Lynch, they would have gave somebody some.
Jordan Lynch back in the day.
Yeah.
Northern Illinois back in the day.
Kenny Galladay back in the day.
Why
Come on,
not?
man. There's had a lot of action down there in the MAC. Let's keep moving forward, Joe. Montana is good at football, apparently, Joe, because Montana State's going to host Yale today as a 25.5-point favorite. We're up this morning and a 55.5 total. What's Montana State? We have the Grizz versus who?
I don't know. All I know is Ivies are allowed to compete in the FCS championship now. For years they weren't. The fact that Yale is playing in their first tournament, I'm taking the points.
22 fired up to be there.
22.5. Give me the over, too. 53.5 could be points aplenty.
How about points aplenty in this next game, Joe? 53.5. That's Prairie View and Jackson State. Is Dion going to be at this game? He ain't doing anything better today. Where's he at?
Can you pick any other garbage games
Come
today?
on.
Prairie View.
Prairie View.
And are you going to watch this game?
Yes.
No,
I'd rather watch
not.
this game over the ACC championship game, Joe.
No, you're
with
not.
Some tacos.
Donnie, I would bet you're not even going to – no shot. I would lay it with the favorite.
Now, I would say, what's the odds I watch a game today? What do you think?
You'll watch the SEC.
I am going to watch it. The SEC is always must-see TV. And that, again, I hated Signetti. I'm a Signetti guy now, Joe. Like, people can change. I hated Notre Dame. I backed them all season long.
Why did you hate Signetti?
I just didn't like he ran his mouth all the time. Another guy on the network really liked the guy, so I sort of played the devil's advocate. It's the way we do it around here, people. Hour number 2 is up next.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just like ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total, or going into the year with the Patriots, was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.